anybody who's being a badass is somebody who gives themselves permission to be, do, and have whatever's in their heart. I mean, it's a bold thing to do because we are very primal and tribal, and you leave the pack and you get eaten by a wolf, you know? Like we find safety in numbers. And so to go out on your own is kind of primally terrifying. But then you find your new pack.
Hey, welcome back to the Oz Shift podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and today we got another cool guest. Our guest is, in fact, a badass. I don't cuss very much, but I get to in this episode because of the work this person has put in. They are an individual who is a New York Times #1 best-selling author with multiple books that have been there. I mean, like one's been on the list for like 4.5, 5+ years. The actual newest one's called Badass Habits. One of the earlier ones, it's phenomenal. It's called You Are a Badass. I'm not going to lie, I haven't read them, but these actually titles make me want to go read them. Outside of that, this person has been on probably all the biggest media outlets you can imagine, all the way from Success Magazine to Oprah, the Dr. Oz Show, even the Howard Stern Show, which is interesting because that's an interesting character. But today, what I want to do is spend some time unpacking the heart and human that this person is. Like, what kind of created the story that led to the writing of the books, what the books have done, what she's learned in the journey, and really, at the end of the day, what are the great nuggets that we can extract from her heart to put into yours. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Jen Sincero. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming and hanging out. I know you're a busy person, so I know I get a little bit of time. It's a special thing. And here's how this episode works. I don't know what I'm going to ask. I couldn't tell you. We're going to flow. The whole intro is made up in the moment, right? So I like that way for me to do this because I get to actually be curious. And so the only thing I do that's we'll call is ask a certain question and an ending question. My first question, super simple, but it guides us. So here's the question. I'm walking around town. I sit down in a coffee shop. You're sitting next to me. I have no idea who you are, nor do you know who I am, but you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
You shouldn't, unless I'm interesting.
That's true. That's interesting. It's funny. The only person I think has had that kind of answer is Mel Robbins, who's a friend. She's like, maybe you shouldn't listen to me. I'm like, oh, well, that throws it. But I think it actually does lead us understanding who you are in kind of a flow. So I guess, what's the question? What would make you interesting?
I mean, I really believe that certain people are or resonate with other people.
Yeah, true.
And so I have found that my books have had the success they've had because my readers really resonate with the way I write. I mean, I'm not saying a whole bunch of brand new stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it in my voice. And so I really encourage everybody to be as authentic as possible, because when you're authentic, then you resonate with your people.
Yeah.
And you do not resonate with those who are not your people.
That's true. I do tell people, if people know you enough if people don't know you enough to dislike you, they will never know you enough to love you.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like that, you got to be transparent, clear. Yeah, steal it, take it, put it in the next book. Just don't even give me credit. I'll just know it's mine. We're good. So how'd you find that voice? Because that's a hard thing today. We got this world where you can't say much without somebody getting mad, and I'm sure some of the things you say, not everybody agrees with. So how did you find that voice, and how did you find the confidence to put it out into the world the way you do?
That's a really good question. I think, especially finding a writer's voice, or actually any artistic voice or whatever, you just got to keep doing it, keep writing. And basically for me, if I like something and I think it's funny and I think it's true, then I put it in. And I also have a rule that if something's really scary for me to say because it's too revealing or too vulnerable, then I have to put that in.
That's good. I like that. I found that to be true too. Like when I have content that I'm creating or putting out or sharing, the stuff that scares me the most, not for the purposes of judgment, but for the purposes of exposure of my soul. Those are the things I'm like, oh, and then I go, no, I guess it's gotta go. My wife tells me not to. She's like, you probably shouldn't do that. But I'm gonna do it anyway. But it is. I find that because Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think you sharing those darker parts is beneficial to the rest of the world? Why do people engage to it?
Oh my gosh. Makes you human.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to read something from a guru or somebody who's completely unrelatable to.
True.
You want to feel like you've been through the trenches and that you can relate to them and they've been through the same stuff you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important. I mean, I'm all for privacy as well. I'm a pretty private person.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I have to share everything. But if it's something that I'm scared to share because it's so true and it makes me look stupid or like I didn't know what I was doing or I don't know, just vulnerable, that's when I put it in.
That's good. That's interesting to be in. Like it's like a two sides of a coin, right? Because on one side, like I'm private, but on the other side, it's like I'm gonna share these private things. But I do agree that it does help because I think some people they feel very alone in most of the battles and the struggles, and then because of that, they don't want to expose because I don't want to feel less than you, and so I just stay small. And so, how did you kind of, I guess, guide people through that in the books? Like I'm assuming that's kind of what happens in the books, what's expressed and shared. They always say you're best suited to serve those who are where you were. So, like, do you mind sharing some of the places that you, I guess, were that you unpack?
Sure, you really want to know? They're not
I would
so
like
pretty.
to. Hey, I know the feeling. I do this all the time. So, yes, I most definitely do.
Yeah.
No.
Well, my whole journey started around money because I had a lot of other parts of my life going really well, but I was just always so broke. And so in my 40s, I was living in a garage in an alley, driving a car that barely worked. And I thought to myself, you know, not only is being broke really boring because you can't do anything, but I was like, really, Jen Sincero? This is the best you can freaking do in your one shot on planet Earth? You're going to spend it living in an alley in a garage. So for me, it was this painful moment of just being like, I'm unavailable for this. I can't do this anymore, you know, and I had all my excuses and all the proof that I sucked at making money, a lifetime's worth of proof. And then I started focusing on making money. And that one act of allowing myself to focus on the unholy dollar was what started to crack me open, because a lot of times everybody wants to make money and, you know, get more successful, and they think money is evil and that people who focus on money have no morals. So you never get anywhere. And that's how I was for the majority of my life. So giving myself permission to make money was the first step. And I write a lot about that in all my books.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think I grew up real poor. Like I had nothing. Interesting story, but yeah, the same thing. It was always this thing of like, man, you know what I heard recently? I don't know if this is 100% true, but someone talked about top 20% of, you know, we'll call people that make money in this world. They make money in different ways. And in that top 20%, it is TV stations, radio, movies, like media. And the bottom 80% where most of the money is coming from, right, to fund what they got going on. They said, well, if you think about it, most of those people, they have to pander to the 80%. So they have to frame the upper area like bad guys. That's why all movies show bad guys and TV. These guys are like the billionaires are the villains and the crazy thing. And it's like it kind of creates this persona over time to where, you demonize those with money because we saw us for so long. When the reality is like money is abundant. It's this thing that kind of flows. Different sidebar, I guess, but you can go down if you want to go down it. But like, how did you come out of that? Because most people get stuck in that for a lifetime.
Well, first I made the decision to make money. That was the first step. And I really think that's so important, because what people usually do is fake decide. So you decide you're going to do whatever it takes. And then the second it gets hard or expensive, or you get risk looking like an idiot, then you come up with all the excuses why you don't need to do it. A real decision means you are looking for ways to do it instead of excuses not to do it.
That's good.
So that was really my first thing. And then with that decision, I started reading all of the money books, all the self-help books, even though I was super snarky about all that stuff and way too cool for school and was afraid I was going to die in my garage with all these cheesy books around.
Yeah.
And I started going to money-making seminars, anything that had to do with money. I was there, and I hired a coach. That was a big piece.
Interesting. A money coach, like a Was it on was it a coach to help you make money or to help your mind be okay with making money?
Well, both. I mean, they're both. If your mind's not on board, you're not making a dime.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And she was on stage speaking at one of these cheesy seminars, and I felt like she was speaking right to me because everything she was saying about all of our BS, about why we can't do it and why it's not okay to do it, it was exactly what I was telling myself.
Yeah. You ever read the book, The Soul of Money?
Oh, yes.
By Lynn Twist. Someone gave this to me early. This is fun. It's the conversation. Because I had to battle the same thing. I think we all go through. I grew up really poor. So like money is very impossible to get. No one makes money. It's not, there's just only the rich have it and they're all evil. So you demonize. So when people would have money, I'd go, well, they're not good people and bring them down, as opposed to what do I got to do to get to that level and be good with money? And so I love how she frames it. And like, it's a facilitator. Like it can do things. She wanted to, you guys should read the book. If you guys are hearing this, it's a great book, but it did open my mind and go, oh, not everybody who has money is bad. Those who solve world problems need money to do so. And so they go through it. So what were some of the biggest, I guess, obstacles she helped you overcome mentally, and we'll call it tactically, to start making money?
My coach?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, on the outset, her price to her fee for working with her was 1/3 of my annual income at the time.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I wasn't making much. I was making like 30 grand a year, but
Yeah.
still
was.
And getting over that hurdle, I put it on a credit card that was already suffering from overuse.
Gotcha.
And called her back like 5 minutes later and was like, please give it back. I made a huge mistake. And she was like, this could easily be the most important $7,000 you've ever spent.
Yeah.
And just do everything I say, and I will stick right by your side, and let's get you where you want to be. So it was the financial investment.
Yeah.
And then it was doing every terrifying thing my coach told me to do, which, we started an online business for me, and I thought online marketing was so cheesy. And I was in a rock band, and I was just, I had this persona to keep up.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, you have two choices. You can be broke and cool, or rich and cheesy. It's like, all right, rich and cheesy at the beginning, right? Because I was still finding my online marketing voice.
Yeah.
And, online marketing, people study which language sells and there's a zillion little tricks.
Yeah.
So I signed up for all of that. And I was just like, oh God, this is so not my voice. This is so not who I am, but it sells.
Yeah.
But because my focus was making money, I stayed with it. And the longer I wrote my marketing stuff, the more of my authentic voice I started to put into it.
Yeah.
And that is actually how the whole You Are a Badass brand
Grew.
was born, because I took a medium like online marketing that wasn't really quote unquote me.
Yeah.
And made it me. And so with my books, I took self-help, which I didn't feel a lot of connection to other than the information, which saved my life. But there was nobody writing in a voice that was interesting to me. So I started reading all of these books, and then I was like, I could write one that's really funny and irreverent and stuff. But, I never would have gotten there if I hadn't taken that first step and let myself start online marketing.
I like that. That's cool, because I guess you started where most people's mental part is like the thing you have to do to get the thing you want. Oh, it's cheesy. We downplay it, and we don't. And this is big for me. My work's an identity. It's like trying to see who you are. And I think a lot of the things we see is like, oh, it's out of character. Oh, it's not me. I don't do that. But realistically, the thing you want is going to be an out of character thing. It's not who you are. You don't have it in your character, right? So you go through that journey.
You haven't done it yet.
Exactly. And I think if people can get that simple logic, it's like, oh, it will feel like that. Yeah, it will naturally feel like that. So you write these books, and were you expecting them to do as well as they did?
Oh my God. 5 years on the New York Times bestseller list. Anybody who expects that is a crazy person.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really felt that I was a writer before I was doing any of this. These were not my first books.
Yeah.
So when I started reading all the self-help books, my writer self was excited not only to take this information and put it in a different voice, but also to share what I had learned myself and to share my personal journey, because I truly felt if my broke ass could get rich, anybody could do it. Because I was practicing being broke for 40 years and very proud of it, and very defensive about it. And so if I could do it, I really wanted to share with other people what I learned.
I like it. And it spawned this. So it started with the money book, and then it's progressed to other stuff. Along that journey, what are some of the things that you, I guess, uncovered beyond that? Because now it's interesting. I would say it's kind of like it's in the self-help realm, right? It's expanded beyond, because I think you have to grow to do anything, right? So it definitely was growth for you as a human and what needed to be done to make money, right? Then I'm sure there's growth in keeping the money, and then growth beyond that of like, once you have that problem, we'll call it, removed, you're still faced with life. So life still happens around you. So what were, I guess, the progressions for you of what you started learning that you're now sharing?
Well, I feel like, I think right now I'm more in a space of really looking at the excuses that you use to hold you back, because I wrote Badass Habits at the peak of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So here I am, like, never even wearing pants, let alone like doing anything productive. And I have to write a book on having good habits and being motivated. And I called my editor and was like, are you kidding me? Really? I got to do this now? Like, I am the biggest sloth.
No
but,
habits. Yeah.
So I had a very good excuse not to do it. And it was quote unquote impossible. And I was not in that headspace.
Cognitive dissonance for sure, huh?
Yeah. And she, thanks to her, she was just like, you know what? We don't know when this thing is going to end. You might as well. She's like, just try, just go for it. This stuff. Like, you don't have to be living it to write it. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy she pushed me to do it, because I think being in the middle of that pandemic brought a lot to the book that would not have been there had I written it at a different time.
Interesting. What kind of
look at things? Well, just sort of like what I just said, that it was impossible to write about having good habits when I was watching TV all day.
Yeah.
But you still know this stuff. And if you want to, you can put it into practice anytime, because it all goes back to that decision. Yeah,
that's true. So it's so true. It's kind of the thing is like, there's so much in there that's true. And I want to like, what's the gold thing to pull out of there? And there's too many gold things. Let's just take it at face value. Why do people need to have badass habits? Why is that an important thing? Like, how did it benefit your life?
Because your habits create your reality. There's that great phrase. It's, your thoughts create your beliefs, your beliefs create your actions create your habits create your reality. Mm-hmm. And when things are on autopilot, you're not really thinking about them. So you tend to accept them as your quote unquote reality. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the habit of being broke, making bad broke decisions, that is your reality. You are bad at making money. It's hard to make money. Most of our habits are unconscious.
I believe so.
So, that's why we say the first step in any transformation is awareness. So becoming aware of what your bad habits are. So for me, it was literally saying, I can't afford it 100 times a day. Mm-hmm. And so when I decided to make money, I busted myself on that belief that became a word, that became an action, that became a habit, that became my reality. So that's why we say what comes out of your mouth comes into your life.
Yeah.
Whatever you repeat over and over. So I'm a big mantra believer.
Okay.
Busting yourself on your bad language habits and deciding to make a better choice.
It's the same concept of like the stories. Like if you create a story and tell the story right out loud, you will live in a way to make the story right. Because we don't like to be wrong.
Because we love to be right.
Oh man,
I wrote a lot about that in Badass Habits.
Oh, did you?
That was,
Gosh, there's a podcast. I can't think. Joseph. I want to say it's Joseph. Oh, I got to look up who it was. But for anyways, we had the podcast, at the conversation. He said at the end of the day, there has actually been studies that have been done that have found that people, in the face of glaring proof that they are incorrect, will still fight for their position, even if they're, because they just can't be wrong. And it's like, and while we're talking about externally, do you think that these beliefs become an internal thing? Like, will we fight ourselves against a belief that we internally know is wrong to stay in that place? And Like, why don't people actively try and adjust their beliefs?
Because it's familiar and comfortable. You know, people stay in abusive relationships for years and lifetimes because it's familiar, because it's comfortable in a way, because familiarity is comfortable. I truly believe that humans are so terrified of the unknown, right? The big baddie, death.
Yeah.
Death could be the most kick-ass thing you've ever experienced. We don't know, but we're terrified of it because it's unfamiliar.
Yeah, true.
So we cling to the familiar and we cling to our identities, and we get mad when our friends change who they're being, right? That's a big problem when you start to grow and transform yourself. A lot of your closest people make fun of you or tell you it's going to be hard or tell you can't do it or whatever. It's because that change into unfamiliar territory freaks us out.
How do you battle that? Because that's, I mean, how do you battle the friendships? Because I know exactly what you're talking about. And most people are afraid of leaving, being cast out from the friend group. How do you trudge through that?
You make new friends who are going to support you. And you don't stay small in your tiny, sad little life to keep the people around you happy. I mean, you got one shot at this. So it's the number one question I get when I do talks or coach or whatever is, what do you do when the people around you don't support you? Because it's so common.
Yeah.
You're basically killing off your old identity.
Yeah.
And people get really angry when you kill somebody they love.
Yeah. And I think also it creates a mirror. And what I've found in like most people's lives is now you're a mirror to their inadequacies or their inability to push or their lack of desire to. And then now they have to do one of two things: admit that you are doing something they should level up themselves, or bring you back down to size. So they poke at you. And it's difficult because I think people internalize that and go, maybe I'm not as good. Well, I think you're placing your judgment or what you're allowing someone to judge in the wrong person. So I like that. Go find new friends. But that's also scary for people. Finding new friends, if you're not in a higher level, people don't want to poke in. So what do you say to people who are like, that they're not going to listen to me? I'm not at their level yet. What do you say to that person who needs to go and find those humans, but feels scared of being cast out or not accepted by them?
We put a man on the moon. You can make some new friends.
Yeah, straightforward.
Seriously.
Yeah. And we already did it. You already have friends, right? So you've probably done it before.
And also, a lot of my friends, thank God, were very supportive, but I definitely lost some. But bye-bye. If you're not going to support my growth, I don't need you around anyway. Yeah. And the new friends, that's why I went to all the coaching seminars, all the networking meetings, even though they were so not really my jam. I got one or two goodies out of that, and I just kept going because it was so important to me.
Yeah, it's funny, as I heard the statement, gosh, I'm going to butcher it, but I'm going to try to say it. I think it goes somewhere along the lines of, if me improving my life burns a bridge, I've got matches. We ride at noon. Or like something like, it's kind of like this. Cool. Like if me improving my life, getting better is burning this bridge, like, all right, I'm out. And then we press on. And that's a confident feeling though. Cause I find that like when I was in my funkiest places, the things that kept me most sane were my people. And they said misery loves company, right? So we'll be in that group of people, and so to leave and go out, it's kind of crazy. What are some things that you can do to, I get it, go make new friends, but like there's some people that go, I don't have the skills, I don't know what to talk about in those groups. Should they go read certain books that group reads? They go learn about something? Like what would be the steps to kind of find out how to feel more comfortable entering that next space of friends?
I think, yes, going exactly what you said, reading the books, educating yourself, there's so many entrepreneurial groups you can get involved with, take classes, you'll meet other people, get into group coaching programs.
Yeah.
There's so many resources where you're going to meet other people. And my gosh, since I've been doing it, the whole self-help realm has gone bonkers.
Yeah,
it's huge. So there's no lack of people out there working on themselves, which is great.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's now, I don't know if the pandemic did it so much, but I feel like when everybody went online, they were forced to like, oh, this is Zoom? Like, yeah, it's been around for like 10 years. Like, but this is Zoom. And I think it did a great service to this personal development, like online access, because now we're realizing, oh, you can actually go online and do everything you need, learn, engage, find people, meet, like just like that. This is a world people were thrust into. And I think it kind of hastened the pace. I do think some people are in a space where I believe you shouldn't tell someone how to run the race until you've crossed a finish line. Right? Maybe you should have done it once or twice, and then maybe go back and talk. Everybody's doing that all the time. I think they're just talking about what they're learning in real time, which it's kind of iffy. But in the space of what like you're doing, and you're out there kind of like, because obviously you speak and you go and share your stuff. Like, what are some of like the pivotal points? Obviously, you have these different books and some things you share. What are like the anchor points of your whole like message that you make sure like you weave into everything you cover or talk about?
That your beliefs create your reality. That you've really got to get a handle on what you're buying into. And if you're not paying attention, you're just going to be a victim to your environment as opposed to the master of your environment and creating what you desire instead of settling for what you got. And certainly some people have much more out of the gate to help them. But I believe every human being has the power to do this.
I'd agree.
And that I mean, and my number one piece of advice is to do something that scares the crap out of you in the direction of what you want to create. Yeah. Because if you're doing stuff that's not scary, you're still in your comfort zone. So
true. Yeah, you got to expand out of it.
The scary thing is the way to go.
It is, and I like the word a moment ago, create, because I think there's a process of creation. Creation is scary because I don't know what it's going to be. I start out with something, but it might end in something different, right? There's that creation to it. And one thing, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, like when I think about this create, that process I'm going towards, I do it at this point in my life away from the world, because the world's scale of creation sucks. Like there's everything you do can always be one-upped, right? So everything you do, if you gauge on that, and it's like, even when I make this, someone's going to go, oh, that sucks because it's not as good as that. And I go, well, that sucked. So what do you say to people when it comes to creating in a space of what might truly suit you and not the person across from you?
Well, you have a choice on how you look at that, though. Like you can say, I'll never be as good as that person. Or you can say, that's just another person. I'm a person too. Yeah. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Or I can
do better. So it really depends. Or I can do it better. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my athletic mind. I always look at, because I got kids. I got 17-year-old and 13-year-old twins, and I frame things to them certain ways. Like they're scared, and I'm like, "What are you scared of?" "Oh, football. I got to go out there and the thing." And I said, "But why can't they be scared of you? Like,
right?
Why can't you go out there and do your thing to a level where they're like, oh, that guy's coming again? Well, what do you mean? Like, and it blows their mind. I'm like, yeah, that's an option, But
right?
I think we do play that smaller mentality, which it leads me to that thought of like the word. I like that word, badass. Like it's a meaning. What is that word? I guess to the core of it. What does it mean to you when you speak it and share it?
I wanted something that was kind of edgy, and that made people feel empowered.
Yeah.
And so for me, anybody who's being a badass is somebody who gives themselves permission to be, do, and have whatever's in their heart. I mean, it's a bold thing to do because we are very primal and tribal, and you leave the pack and you get eaten by a wolf, like we find safety in numbers. And so to go out on your own is kind of primally terrifying.
Yeah.
But then you find your new pack and you're running bigger and, and you've transformed yourself and you've created this whole new world that your old pack that may not fit you anymore would never have gotten you to.
It's true. And then I think you ascend too. There's something to that. And maybe it's hard to get people to grasp it if we've never done it before. But I think there's a mentality of like you leave the pack, you find a new pack. And then I think, and what do you think? I think the goal is to rise to the top of that pack and leave that pack too. Like
wherever you're happy, I'm a big believer in not everybody has to make millions of dollars. Not everybody has to have all the things. So, and that's a real challenge too, right? Blocking out all of the shoulds and the opinions and the judgments and getting really quiet and being like, what is my truth? What brings me joy?
Yeah.
And then allowing yourself to go out and create that. It's very audacious.
Yeah.
To let yourself be whoever the hell you are. It's incredible how audacious that is. But when you meet somebody who's just doing it and does not give a single crap about what anybody else thinks, that is one of the greatest gifts in the world. It is the most inspiring thing to meet somebody like that.
I agree. You can walk in a room and know that person is. There's a, and you know what's funny is people like they wonder like how to become a person of value, and I think you have to value you first, and then then it oozes out. Like you can walk into a room and I can look across and I can tell the person who is just having a good time. They're not worried about anybody else. There's just a lightness to them, and I think those people. I said it one time. When I said to my buddy, "Oh, here's what I told him." I said, it's hard for me to spend time around people who are unsettled inside." Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it can get old, and believe me, we're all unsettled
To an extent.
at times.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, no one's perfect. I don't want to hang out with that perfect person either.
Yeah. No one wants to do that. I get it. I'd agree.
Not that they exist anyway.
Yeah.
But people who are really caught in a story and in the loop and the excuses and the boo-hooery, that's not interesting.
Yeah, no, it's not fun. And I think those are the kind of people that draw us down too, because we tend to borrow energy and engage off certain people. So I think sometimes being around those funky human beings, it doesn't always kind of fit the groove and make us feel good. But I do want to go back to the thought of like you have to see yourself as valuable first, right, before you can go and be a person that demands it or commands value in the space. So how does somebody like, I guess, do the things that would create the internal value, their own perception of internal value for the world?
I am a big believer in just doing it anyway, even though the fraud blinker is going off on your forehead. And you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to get called out as an idiot. If you are excited, we are creatures that are driven by excitement. Way more than logic. I mean, how many times has there been something that you knew was a really bad idea, but it was going to be really fun, so you did it anyway, right? So that's why you stay connected to the emotion. That's how you get there. So, you know, when I was starting my online business, I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm going to coach these people. I don't know what I'm talking about, blah, blah, blah. But I knew I could help because I was coaching them on writing, and I was a writer at that point. And I was excited to talk to these people, and I was excited to make money and to have a business of my own. So even though I felt like a big fat fraud, I did it anyway. And the nice thing about a little touch of the fraud complex is it keeps you on your damn toes, because you're like, you've got that terror excitement. So you're like, I got to show up 200%. I'm not sure I can do this, so I'm going to give more than I've ever given. And the more you step into that space, the more you're like, all right, I kind of got this. I'm learning. I'm good. And then you catch up to yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of that, that's the identity thing we mentioned. That's the big thing that I talk about. It's like you have to, they say fake it till you make it, but I think there's this process where you go through exactly what you were outlining. You don't feel confident doing it, but I'm sure you probably have a heart. Like you're not going to go out there, take their money and walk away. Like your goal is to still serve them. But you know that like, I got to figure out how to serve them. But then when you serve people, you start to find, okay, I'm doing this. And at some point I wake up, no one knows the exact moment, but I go, oh, this is who I am now. I am a coach and I'm good at this. But the biggest step of that was the first one you talked about, stepping into it with the mindset of like, I'm going to figure it out, and you figure it out. Like, I think that is missed.
And that's why I called my books, You Are a Badass, because deep down, most people know they are. And it's just really clearing the jungle of excuses and life, you know, experiences. And
yeah, it's the same quote of your deepest fear is not that you are inadequate, it's that you are powerful beyond measure.
Right.
Yeah, that's the truth. Because that when people settle into it, it's like, yeah. Because what separates, I think, the most successful person that a person could, look at, it's not that that person was born in that way. And logic tells us that. It's that that person just stepped in front of a bunch of moving trains and figured out how to climb up on and ride them. They just kept doing the thing that scared the crap out of them. Man, I like how your mind works. I feel like there's a couple people that I want to share with you that I think you'd really enjoy. There's this guy on Instagram. I cannot think of his handle right now. But he starts every single one of his episodes. He's a woodworker, amazing woodworking talent. And everything's like, hey, F-heads, but he uses the full word. And he just talks to people like they're idiots. But he says these eloquent, very well thought out statements. And I think you would really enjoy him. I'm going to find him and I'm going to send him because you'll enjoy it. I like it a lot. But But no, I like the way that your mind works in a sense of framing this for people, because I think it's more than just the language of you're a badass. It's more than just that, because I'm hearing for you, it's like I go to the beliefs, because that really is the core of it all. And when you have beliefs, I think it adjusts the way you see the world and how you build and how you create different things. And so my question to you is, what are the beliefs that you currently right now are embodying that you're bringing forth in the world? Like, because obviously you're not done. You got life to live. You got things to create. What is your heart pulling towards for the next thing you're going to put out in the world?
You know, to be perfectly honest, right now I'm in a bit of a stall. I'm not quite sure where I want to point my energy next. So my belief is I'm perfect right where I am, and it will totally come to me when it's meant to, and then not get freaked out and to not fall back on what I used to do or what's comfortable or whatever. Like, I'm staying in that moment of excited expectation and being okay with not knowing exactly what it is right now.
I like that. Gosh, I like that a lot, because there's something to a power of that, of being at peace, not, making these crazy moves. I find like I had a conversation with a buddy. He's like, "What's new in life?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing, man. I got my wife and kids are good. Business is good. I'm loving what I do." And he's like, "What's with you?" Same thing. But then you talk to like mid-20-year-olds. They're like, "I'm doing this and this and this and this," and I'm like, I couldn't hang with you anymore. Like, there's too much crazy. There's no peace in that. I find that there is a joy to be around people. I think that's the settled inside I talk about. When you're at peace doing your thing and you're living life on your terms, there's a special space there. But a lot of people aren't like okay with that. Like, I think that there's some people that feel like they have to be doing something to show the world. How did you get to the point of being like, you know what, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 100% okay with that?
I got old. I'm 56.
I guess it helps.
I'm tired. I don't want to be doing stuff all the time.
Yeah, I can see it.
But seriously, I got to the point, honestly, where I'm financially good.
Yeah.
And I could retire if I wanted to. And for me, that's incredibly disorienting, because my whole life I've been ambitious as hell.
Yeah.
And listen, it wasn't all about the money. I really enjoyed my work and connecting with my people. But the main fire under my butt was to support myself.
Yeah.
And now that that's no longer a thing, it's disorienting. Yeah. And what a luxury, and my God. But so now I'm finding other things. So it really is about discovering how I can be of more service and really figuring out what's fun for me too, because I'm, like you just said, in my 20s, I wanted to be an international rock star. And now that sounds exhausting.
I bet.
So as you age, the things that are fun and interesting to you change. And I think that there's a period of discovery with pretty much every decade that we step into. And I don't really think people talk about this a lot. And I'm in another phase of discovery. And I've been here before, but I've never been at it at this age with all the experience I have now. So it's always a new experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that does help to create peace when you're open for the experiences, letting things flow. What do you think about the question, money can buy happiness?
Listen, I've been broke and I've been rich.
Yeah.
And happiness comes and goes in both situations. But money sure as hell makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
I mean, all money provides is options and freedom. And I love me some options and freedom. So in that sense, it does buy happiness, I like that, in my opinion.
And it's funny, like I grew up and I was like, money can't buy happiness, for a long time. The way I frame it is like, I think money can remove a bunch of stressors that can diminish happiness. But the fact that money comes in doesn't automatically plug in happy. But I do like how I've never heard anybody say it that way. It does create freedom and options. And I would much rather have, like if something happens and I lose someone in life and I'm sad, I'd much rather have the money not be something I got to worry about right now. I want to worry about mourning and dealing with that, like something. I just feel like there is something perspective-wise. But I think that ties to another one of those things that we grow up with that, oh man, money's bad and money's thing and money can't, so we don't go after it. And then we complain because we're living lives of unhappy because we have no options and no freedom. So that's a powerful way to look at it. I think it's a conversation that I don't know why we still have it nowadays. With so much conversation, information, things out there, it is still odd that some people stay in that place of battling that same conversation for so many years. Maybe the narrative will change. Who knows? Maybe it won't change. We'll just keep on living in that direction. Man, I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting and hanging out with you. You got a really cool mind, a really cool experience of life. It's been a blast. I always have one question that I conclude with, but before I ask that question, where can people find your books, your work, all the fun stuff you do in the world?
If they go to youareabadass.com, that will go to my website. You can also go to jensincero.com, JenSincero.com, and that's Instagram as well, and on Facebook and all the things.
All the things. I know what that looks like. It's just go find if you Google somebody, you'll find them nowadays. Just go go Google what she does. Here's the final question. You can answer however you want. I'm curious to see your answer, but here's the one I ask: what promise did God make to the world when He created you?
What promise did God make to the world when He created me? You have to ask God. That's none of my business. It's His promise.
That's a good one. I've had a lot of good responses to that. They're always interesting to me because I think people get a chance to feel where you're at. Because some people are like, well, I don't believe there's a God. I'm like, that's okay. I'm not getting mad at you. Or some people go, well, I don't know. Like, I call it creator. Okay, cool, whatever. But then there's this, like what you said, like, I don't have to ask Him. And that's its own interesting question because I think that does. Okay, there you go. I see what you did. See? That's the kind of things that throw. And I love that. I'm a man of faith. I'm also a man of faith for myself. Not that I have to impose it on other people. It's a different realm of how I think I function and operate. But I do love to have that kind of that feel of like where's somebody at. But yeah, I guess it's like, I don't know. Because it's hard the way my faith works is I don't know what God thinks. I couldn't comprehend the mind. So sometimes for me to go, He wants this, it's still me saying what I think He wants, So it's an interesting dynamic. But if I was to put it through my realm, I think you're doing something that's powerful for your life because not only are you doing it for yourself, and a lot of people, they'll go make money, but they don't tell other people how to find freedom in the journey. Like they don't, like you've done, here's the book, here's the path, here's what I've done, go follow, help people. So I love what you said. Like, yeah, you made the money, but it wasn't always about that. It's beautiful.
That's a very loaded topic, I feel like.
Right?
Religion, sex, and money are the three no-nos.
They are, aren't they? Yeah. You know what's funny is
crazy.
I find that they're the no-nos. And here's why, and this is my perspective. I think a lot of people like to say they're open-minded, but no one has the ability, not no one, wrong way of saying it. Not many people I find have the ability to entertain an idea without accepting it. And so what happens, all they do is talk, but what they also do is when you have a belief in opposition, they frame it as an active opposition to mine. So when you say like, I like bacon. Okay, cool. You like bacon? No. How are you saying? You said I shouldn't like bacon? No, I didn't say that. I just said I don't like bacon, man. Like there's just that. And so I find that for me,
taking it personally.
Yeah, I just don't take it personal. And so I hate that has to be the thing if you don't talk politics, sex, religion. But it's like, how do you get good at things? I think one of the reasons that I was never good at money early on growing up was because we never talked about it at home. I never had conversations about it at home.
That's what I mean. Religion, sex, and money. Like, especially sex. Like, you're not allowed to talk about it, but you're supposed to be good at it.
Right?
Right?
And you feel bad
same with money. No one talks about it, but we all are supposed to take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and if I want to be good, like, I don't know, drawing art, I'm going to spend time talking about it and drawing art, so I'll get good at it. But if you don't spend time talking about it and figure out money, how do you expect people to be good at it? So I do.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah, that's why I was so excited to write a book all about money.
Yeah.
And just be right in your face about it because you've got to talk about it.
You have to, or you don't get good at it, period.
I'm going crazy. My voice is getting really high.
I love it. Thank you so much for hanging out. Seriously, I've appreciated hanging with you. You got a solid mind. I think more people need to hear it. Those of you who are tuned in, still hanging out with us, if something within this episode resonated, you found something that was like gold, and you're like, man, this is amazing, make sure that you take notes. Go re-listen to it and apply the things you've heard. Don't just go out there and, try it on your own. Also, she's written books. Go grab the books. youareabadass.com. It's a great place to go get insights you need. If you believe that what you've heard can also help somebody else, share this episode with them. Sometimes your voice can't get through to people closest to you, but somebody else's who has true insight and expertise can. That's Jen. So kick it over to them or just put out in the ethers. Hit share, put in your feed. You never know who's watching. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Jen Sincero. I promise I know how to say her word. Jen Sincero signing off. Take care, everybody. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.